Good afternoon. I'm KHOU 11 Meteorologist Chris Ramirez. We are starting off with our drought report that was released earlier this morning. We haven't received significant rain for the past couple of months, and I know that we've had a mostly wet summer and it rained every day in the months of June and July, but unfortunately we've had quite a bit of time since then that we didn't really see that much rainfall, especially in the months of September. So therefore, the latest drought index showing moderate drought conditions now creeping into Harris County, and this does include portions of Trinity and Polk counties north of Cleveland. It does include Livingston, so we are seeing those moderate drought conditions now in place for west of us, our area as well, which includes Columbus, Brenham, even El Campo. So portions of Houston now enduring drought, and we do need the rain. And we're not going to see the rain, at least in the next few days, because we are going to feel the effects of a cold front within the next 12 to 24 hours. So dew points are in the lower 60s. We have very moist conditions across southeast Texas. That is going to really become drier as we head into later on this evening into Friday morning. So dew points are going to go from the 60s to the 50s and 40s. And that's going to bring us a major drop in the humidity. Also, when we have this dry air in place, it really does play a role at how cold we get in the evening and morning hours. So we're going to see those conditions a little bit on the cooler side for Friday morning. In addition to that, we also have a fire weather risk. So dry vegetation, high risk for some grass fires. We saw that last week out and along the coastal areas in Brazoria County. There was a grass fire that was happening. And just keep in mind that it's not going to take much to cause those similar type of fires, at least for today. So this is from the Texas A&M Forest Service. This is a high risk where you see those tan colors, this little bit of a white tannish color. That's a level 3 out of 5. Areas to the north of Houston, that includes portions of just near Conroe, south of Livingston. This is the Piney Woods region where you see this little reddish color. That's a very high risk for fire weather concerns. You have a lot of vegetation, a lot of trees in that area. So if you do find yourself trying to enjoy this beautiful weather that we're about to receive, just use extra caution when burning outdoors, especially for this weekend. Burn bans are actually in effect for some of our counties: Walker, San Jacinto, and Polk counties, also Colorado and Wharton counties. I know we received an email to the newsroom about a couple of days ago that they are planning to implement a burn ban for Harris County as well. That's going to be issued in the coming days. I know there's a process involved when it comes to approving that. But looking at the rainfall outlook, this is from the Climate Prediction Center for about mid-October. It's expecting to remain drier than normal for us here across southeast Texas and for much of the south as we head into the middle of the month. So today's high, 90 degrees. It's going to be warm for this afternoon, but Friday morning, I know I was talking about all the doom and gloom of hazards and droughts and fire concerns, but the good news is that we are expecting temperatures to be in the 60s if you're heading out the door in the morning hours for Friday. Here's a look at what we're expecting to see. Areas north of town likely to see 59 in Brenham, 59 in Navasota, even Conroe in the 50s. This cold front is going to be a bit stronger than the last one we had, and so therefore we didn't see 50-degree temps with our previous cold front. So forecast in the 50s. You might need your jacket heading out the door in those early morning hours starting tomorrow. So still a bit muggy and dry, and right now that front is situated and moving into northeast Texas. It's called a backdoor cold front because it's approaching from the northeast. Usually we have cold fronts approaching directly from the north as well as from the northwest, but when you have more of that surge of cooler air that goes into portions of the deep south, it usually sends some cooler air our way that it comes from Louisiana and eventually moving in and becoming less humid. That's going to be the case for us as we head into the next few days. We have high pressure system that's going to be building in. High pressure system is really going to cause us to be mostly sunny and quiet and calm, at least for the weekend into the start of next week. I think we're going to not really just see any rain chances. It's going to be mostly sunny and warm for us as we head into the next few days. The tropics are still a bit active. It's just an important reminder. We are still in hurricane season. It doesn't end until the end of November. There is Tropical Storm Jerry out in the Atlantic, and you have another little spot that's out in the northern Atlantic that has a very low chance of development. This is well over open water and moving away from the U.S. Tropical Storm Jerry not posing a threat to us as well. Right now it has winds at 65 miles an hour, moving west-northwest at 18 miles an hour. This system is going to remain over open water, eventually strengthen into a Category 1 hurricane as we head into the early hours of Saturday with 80-mile-an-hour winds. That's just going to stall all over open water and not pose a threat to the U.S. Usually for this time of year, these fall cold fronts that we usually get usually just keeps all the tropics well away from the U.S. and away from southeast Texas. So that's the good news in all of this. But for today, right now, we are starting off mostly sunny across Galveston. There is a little bit of activity, a little bit of rough seas, choppy waves out there in the Gulf. So if you plan to be out on the open water, just be extra cautious. I believe that there is a small craft advisory for areas across our Gulf-facing beaches for today. Northeast winds at 10 miles an hour, no visibility concerns. Right now, Houston is looking mostly quiet, mostly sunny, and we're seeing those temperatures continue to be warm, and we already have topped out into the 80s for this afternoon. So 86 right now. I think we're going to actually hit that 90-degree mark before you know it. So 86, so it's not much. We only have 4 more degrees before we get to 90, as we still are seeing those northeast winds between 12 miles an hour. Also, the dew points are falling a little bit slowly. We were in the upper 60s early today. Now we're seeing the dew point at 67. Usually when it comes to determining and identifying where these cold fronts are, we usually look at the dew point. That really just brings that drier air that's in place. So for our hourly forecast, a bit warm for this afternoon. I think high temps are going to once again top out at around 90 degrees for around the 3 to 4 p.m. hour. And then we are expecting those conditions to remain mostly warm, at least as we look at our temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center for mid-October. So as far as your 7-day forecast, expect those conditions to remain mostly warm. Sunset will be at 6:57 this evening. This is a look at your 7-day forecast. We will see a rather pleasant weekend. Look at those morning temperatures, the 64 degrees as you start our day. It's going to have a little bit of a cooler start. That's going to be the case at least into Saturday and Sunday. And then once again, by Monday, Tuesday, we will see the return of somewhat humid conditions, as well as those conditions sending our temperatures back into the 90s. So this is going to be another Houston version of a cold front. The trees are changing in some locations, but I think we are going to slowly start seeing more of those stronger fronts move through as we get closer to the end of October. Hopefully we have a good fall-like cold front that will bring us great conditions for Halloween. Drought report right now. This is, if you're just now joining us, this is we're broadcasting to you from the 4 KHOU 11 Plus. This is where we usually go into our extended forecast. We go a little bit more in depth and spend a lot more time talking about what's happening in our weather conditions here across southeast Texas. But the main thing right now is the drought report that was released earlier this morning. There's now showing drought conditions in place for portions of Harris County, even Trinity County, looking at moderate drought conditions. This area has not received that much rain, and I know that we've had a pretty wet summer. It seemed like there was a period of June and July where it was just raining every single day, but for the months of August and September, it's been mostly dry, and that's what we are looking at, especially as we are seeing those drought conditions starting to expand for much of southeast Texas, especially for the Houston area. So future dew points, we are starting off mostly muggy. I'm going to go ahead and walk off screen here so we can look at the dew point scale of what dew points really means. It really just means how humid it feels out there. Dew point's a measurement of saturation, of how saturated the air is outside. And so that's why we talk about dew points, because usually when they're at 70, 75 degrees, which is usually what we see here in Houston during the summertime, that just goes to show that it's just extremely humid. You know how that thing where people always complain that Houston is just so humid? That's what they're complaining about. They're complaining about how humid it is and how moist our atmosphere is. But as we head into looking at what we're going to see for the next 24 to 48 hours, we are going to go from 65 to 70, which is a little bit muggy, to mostly dry and refreshing type weather for once here across our area for those afternoon hours as well. Usually when we have very dry conditions, it really brings cooler overnight temperatures. It's called radiational cooling. Usually all the moist, saturated, muggy air traps heat, and so when there's not that available, it really just causes the temperatures to continue to fall, which is the reason why when you talk about deserts, Las Vegas, Arizona, even though it gets up to 116, 118 degrees, it gets extremely cold in those super dry areas when they have dew points well far below 60s, usually in the 20s and 30s out in the desert southwest. So looking at that, we are expecting those conditions to remain mostly humid for the next few hours, but we are expecting the arrival of a frontal boundary that's going to ultimately bring us some cooler conditions across our area as we head into the next 24 hours. So today's high, 90 degrees. Friday morning, we're going to be in the 60s. It's going to feel very pleasant outside, and we are expecting to see those conditions once again become cooler. But again, it's going to be dry out there. So if you are out and about dealing with the pleasant weather and you want to do some outdoor burning, just be extra cautious, because this dry air, in addition to the lack of rain that we have not received for the past couple of months, is going to bring us that fire weather concern, and we can expect those dew points again to drop into the 30s and 40s. And so the Texas A&M Forest Service, their fire weather outlook, this is for today, causing a very high risk for grass fires, especially in those areas with high vegetation, like you usually see out in the Piney Woods region of our area, which is north of Houston, northeast of Houston, towards Livingston, and in and around the Huntsville area. So looking at the next 7 days, we are expecting those conditions to remain mostly pleasant for this weekend. Morning temperatures in the 60s, a bit cooler in terms of those afternoon temps, and I know we still have highs in the 90s. It is going to feel more pleasant because of the lack of moisture that we're going to experience here across town, and we are expecting those conditions to remain mostly pleasant, at least for this weekend. And it's not going to be at least until Tuesday and Wednesday where we'll see the return of these warm conditions, unfortunately. So it's going to be Houston version of a cold front, not one of those strong cold fronts that we're going to need a jacket. I think it's just going to give us a very pleasant type forecast, especially for this weekend. So definitely enjoy it and be safe out there, especially when it comes to burning. And that's all I have for you. Thank you for watching our extended forecast. Make sure to tune in on KHOU 11 Plus, as well as on the KHOU 11 app. We will give you the latest weather updates, and we're working hard to continue to give you these weather updates as we head into the fall and ultimately the winter season. Have a great rest of your day.